What's up, you guys? Mattador here. We're here to talk about some spoilers from Captain America 3 Civil War. So, if you haven't seen the movie yet, go watch it, then come back and watch this video. If you'd like to see a spoiler-free review, click right here. Alright, so let's talk about some spoilers in Captain America 3. There's a lot to talk about. At the heart, this movie is about relationships. The relationship between Bucky and Captain America. There's a lot of other relationships that it focuses on too, but that one is at the core. We've also got the relationship between Iron Man and Rhodey. You see their relationship evolve a lot. Vision and Scarlet Witch. Hawkeye and Scarlet Witch. Between Tony Stark and his parent. Black Panther and Bucky. You've got Bucky and Falcon. You've got a relationship between Iron Man and Spider-Man. So the whole movie deals with relationships, but seeing as this is a Captain America movie, the main relationship that they focus on is Bucky and Cap. Bucky gets a lot of time to shine in this movie. Starts off with a mission that Hydra sends him on. We know from Winter Soldier that they brainwashed him and they erased his memory a lot, but what we didn't know is that there's a certain code phrase that people can say and he will be extremely compliant and then have no memory of it. And in fact, that's where we start out. He knocks this car off the road and then steals something from the trunk. It looked like little Kool-Aid packets or something like that. So the next thing we see is a mission that Captain America is going on, and he has his team with him. Hydra has planted a bomb there. So they go there and they're taking care of business. Sure enough, we meet Crossbones from Winter Soldier. He got burned, he's disfigured, he's scarred. So there's a fight between Captain America and Crossbone. They're going at it, man. It's intense. Crossbone says to him, "This is for dropping a building on my face." I had to laugh at that. It was kind of ridiculous, but awesome at the same time. So they have a big fight, and as it turns out, the bomb that they're looking for is actually Crossbone. He blows himself up. Scarlet Witch contains it, kind of, and then she's gonna take it up so that there's no casualties, but she slips or something happens and the bomb actually ends up blowing up the building, so a lot of people died, and she feels terrible about it. Who wouldn't? So she doesn't do much for a while because she's trying to come to terms with her powers. There's a really good scene between her and Vision. Vision says, like, "I have no idea what this Mind Stone is. I'm kind of scared of it, but it's part of me." And that's exactly the way that she feels about her power. After that is where they start the build-up for the entire story. They have this meeting with General Ross. They brought him back from the Incredible Hulk movie. He tells them, like, "Captain, people are scared. The Avengers have done a lot of good, but they've caused a lot of destruction." And I gotta say, I thought that was really gutsy for them to try to paint them as these irresponsible, maybe even the villains of the story. So they come up with these Sokovia Accords, and basically what it is the Avengers are not going to be able to operate freely as they so choose. They'll be a part of the United Nations. They get to decide where the Avengers go and what kind of missions they do. If they deem that it's necessary for them to be sent somewhere, they'll go. If not, you gotta just sit tight and let the military handle it. So right off the bat, you start off with two opposite sides of the same coin. Captain America, who says, "This doesn't feel right. What if there's some place that we really think we need to go, but they won't let us? Or what if there's somewhere that they want to send us that we don't want to go?" The safest hands are still our own, not necessarily these political people that have agendas. And Iron Man is actually all for this, which kind of comes as a surprise, because usually in this sort of situation, Tony would just tell them where to stick it. But he has had his perspective change. Beginning of the movie, this woman whose son was in Sokovia while they were there fighting Ultron, she comes up to him with a picture and says, "You killed him." So he's had his perspective change. He leads with his emotions. We've known that about him for quite some time. At this point in time, he has regrets about how they've done things in the past. He wants to change it. He says, we have to accept these limitations. If we can't, we're no better than the bad guy. His whole point in doing this is to keep the Avengers together. Because if they don't sign this, the Avengers are no more. The Avengers are retired. So Tony says, "Look, I want us to all be able to keep doing this, but we have to have some ground rules. We have to have some limitation." One of the things that I love about this movie is it's not this black and white, this side is right and this side is wrong. Both sides are very fleshed out. You understand exactly why each person would feel the way that they do. It's not just, oh, well, this is a Captain America movie, so he stands for freedom, so he's going to be against this. And, oh, Iron Man, we just need somebody for Captain America to fight against. No, 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 no. You understand completely why each person chooses what they choose. You understand exactly where everybody stands. And that's great. I've mentioned in my spoiler-free review that Captain America gets some advice, but I didn't tell you where he got it. He actually gets that advice from Sharon Carter, Agent 13, who we met in Winter Soldier. He gets this advice at Peggy Carter's funeral. It's kind of a sad, touching thing, to see Captain America show some emotion about this woman. He mentions that she was one of the only people he had when he came back. But the advice that she gives him is something that Captain America very famously said in one of his comics. I don't know which one. If you know, let me know in the comments below. When the entire world tells you that what's wrong is right and what's right is wrong, they tell you to move. You plant yourself like a tree next to the river of truth, and you tell them, no, you move. So he gets that advice at this funeral, which strengthens his resolve against this, because to him, this whole time, he's been thinking, there's got to be another way that we can do this. So around this time, they decide to sign these Sokovia Accords. Black Widow goes, and she meets T'Chaka, the king of Wakanda, and his son, T'Challa, who we know later is revealed to be Black Panther. They're very quickly introduced, but you learn everything you need to know about them and their character in a very short time. It's not that complicated. While King T'Chaka is giving his speech, a bomb explodes. So Black Panther tries to save his father, but he doesn't make it in time. His father dies. And later it's revealed the person who planted the bomb was Bucky. So Black Panther has this personal vendetta against Bucky for that very reason. There's this really, really cool scene where they're sitting outside in the wreckage. Black Widow's trying to comfort him. He starts telling him where his father is. It's a much more peaceful place. And she says, that sounds really nice. And he says, but I am not my father. And she says, let them take care of this. He says, don't worry. I'll just kill him myself. He just gets up and leaves, and you're not sure exactly where he's going or what he's going to do. So it's around this time, Captain America gives Black Widow a call, and he asks her if she's all right, what happened, that sort of thing. And she says, hey, I know you. I know Bucky means a lot to you. Stay out of this. Don't make this worse. Little does she know that he's already there, already planning on making it worse. I mean, that's not necessarily his plan, but it's what happens. Captain America tracks Bucky down to this old beat-down, rusty, crusty apartment. He says to them, you see this in the trailer, people that are coming here for you believe that you did murder those people, and they're not planning on taking you alive. So what ends up happening is this awesome chase scene. They're trying to beat down the door, and Bucky swings the door open, and he grabs that thing, and he hits this guy, and the guy goes flying. I just love how the Russo brothers just add stuff like that in there. They're going down this spiral staircase. He breaks the railing, and he jumps off, and it falls down behind him, and he swings down to the door below him. If you haven't seen it, you have no idea what I'm talking about, because I'm not explaining it very well. I don't know why you're watching this video if you haven't seen the movie. So they have this chase scene. Captain America steals a car. So much for not making it worse. I think it was actually a cop car, if you go back and watch. But he's chasing Bucky down in this car, and then Black Panther shows up, and he's up on top of the car, and Captain America can't get him off the car. Black Panther runs and tackles Bucky on this motorcycle. It's awesome. At the end of the chase scene, he takes off the Black Panther mask. It's T'Challa. And everybody's like, Your Majesty. And they kneel down for him. Black Widow shows up, and she's like, remember when I said don't make it worse? This is what making it worse looks like. There's a really funny scene where they're in a car. Falcon's in the back seat. Falcon does not have a good time in this movie. He looks at Black Panther and he says, so, you like cats? And Captain America's like, dude, really? You have to ask that? What? A dude shows up in a cat costume. You don't have a few questions for him? Black Panther says to Captain America something to the effect of, how long do you think you can protect your friend from me? Whoa. He's not messing around. So they take Bucky back to their holding facility, which is not S.H.I.E.L.D., but it looks and operates a lot like S.H.I.E.L.D. And we're introduced to Martin Freeman's character, which I don't know what his character's name actually is. I just called him Bilbo the whole movie. We're introduced to him. They have Bucky in this mobile holding cell thing. He's getting a psych evaluation. But what you don't know at the time is that the guy doing the psych evaluation is actually the villain of the movie, and he has an evil plan. He's been showing up. He's been trying to interrogate people about the mission that Bucky did all those years ago where he stole those Kool-Aid packets. And every time they talk about it, they show that clip again. There's a reason for that, but we'll get to that a little bit later. He's doing his psych evaluation, and then he has it set up to take all the power out so that nobody who's in that building can hear what he's saying to him. And he says those code words that make Bucky turn into the Winter Soldier. So Bucky starts attacking people. He attacks Captain America. He attacks Black Widow, Agent 13. And then T'Challa shows up, and he's not messing around. He doesn't have his Black Panther vibranium suit on. Some really good fight scenes going on. So Captain America finally helps Bucky escape. Him and Falcon have Bucky all to themselves so they can finally just talk to him. And Bucky, of course, has no memory of what happened. Says, I don't know. Steve Rogers is like, I'm going to need you to do better than I don't know, because you just attacked an entire group of good guys. Talk back and forth. He's like, am I talking to Bucky or am I talking to the Winter Soldier? He starts giving him these facts like, your mom's name is Sarah. You used to put newspapers in your shoe. That's a terrible Bucky impression. Both sides know what the other side is capable of because they've all worked together. So they go and they recruit a few extra members. Iron Man goes to get Spider-Man, which, if you can't tell, probably my favorite part of the movie. Tom Holland is amazing as Peter Parker and Spider-Man. I've loved both of the previous Spider-Man. I love Tobey Maguire, at least in the first and second one. I thought Tobey kind of nailed the duality. You know, Peter Parker was really nerdy and sciencey, maybe a little bit over the top with the nerdiness. I loved Andrew Garfield as Spider-Man. I never necessarily bought him as Peter Parker. I thought his Peter Parker needed a little bit of work. But I think Tom Holland is a great mix of both. They have this scene where Tony Stark is talking with him, and you learn everything you need to know about Peter Parker in that 10-minute scene. There's no origin story. There's no Uncle Ben dying. There's none of that. They just assume that you know it. Spider-Man says, when you have these abilities, when something bad happens and you do nothing, it's your fault. I love that. It's basically the exact same thing as with great power comes great responsibility, but it's said in a little bit different way. But I just love that that's what he's about. There's this really funny back and forth between him and Tony Stark. Robert Downey Jr. does an amazing job. They have great chemistry together. He shows him the web. He shows him the suit. He says, my friend, you're in serious need of an upgrade. So Tony Stark makes a Spider-Man suit for Spider-Man. And I think that's awesome. Hawkeye goes and gets Scarlet Witch. Vision's like, no, you can't take her. She's here at Mr. Stark's orders. Scarlet Witch she starts doing her magic stuff, and she says, Vision, I'm getting out of here. And if I have to stop you, I will. He's back there just, like, please don't do this. And then she just, she knocks him all the way down to the bottom floor. It was awesome. So Hawkeye is there. Scarlet Witch is there. They go and get Ant-Man. So that's Team Captain America. They're all going to this airport, which I'm sure you've heard people talk about the airport scene already. They're going there to get the Quinjet so they can get off the map, off the grid. This big showdown happens. One of the best action sequences I've seen in years. Every single character gets their moment to shine. I loved seeing this Spider-Man in action. The detail that they put into the web is amazing. Even though you only see it for a few seconds, you really get the idea that this is actual spider web. Ant-Man has a lot of great dialogue. He's really funny in this movie. Falcon and Bucky, they're developing their relationship because Falcon's not completely sold on the fact that Bucky is worth saving. So there's some tension there. And then they're fighting with Spider-Man, the two of them. Falcon even says to him, I don't know how many fights you've been in, but there's usually not this much talking. Spider-Man, he's a loudmouth. He can't help giving his jokes. So I loved that not only were they true to the character there, but they're true to how everybody else reacts to him by saying, like, just shut up for 5 minutes. But then Spider-Man webs both Bucky and Falcon to the ground, and Falcon's little drone comes in and knocks Spider-Man down. Bucky makes the comment, something like, where was that 5 minutes ago? And Falcon's laying there. He's had such a hard day at this point. He says, I hate you. Scarlet Witch goes around. She picks him up with her powers and then just throws him. She is OP, but she doesn't even realize it yet. So, there's this kind of like checks and balance. She really is probably one of the most powerful ones there. She just doesn't know how to control her powers yet. But when she does, she's going to be a force to be reckoned with. Rhodey and Iron Man are flying around trying to do some crowd control. Black Panther's going around. He's fighting against everybody, trying to get to Bucky because that's all he cares about. Hawkeye gets in his way and he's shooting arrows at him. He just swats him away. And then he catches one and it explodes in his face. But he's like, vibranium, son. That doesn't affect me. Hawkeye just kind of looks at him like, who is this guy? And he says, we haven't been introduced. I'm Clint. And Black Panther says, I don't care. That's him. He doesn't have time for quips or sarcasm or humor. He's nothing but business. I love that about him. And then we come to the best moment in the entire movie. Okay, Ant-Man has become Giant Man, which is awesome in and of itself. But then everybody on Team Iron Man is trying to figure out what to do because he's wrecking shop. Nobody's able to get past. So Iron Man makes this comment, does anybody on our team have any special abilities that they want to show us? Because now's the time. That would be dandy. Everybody's kind of like, I got nothing. Spider-Man is the one who figures out how to defeat him. He's swinging around. He's getting in Ant-Man's face. He's up here hanging over his eye, and he's kind of like, ah. And he finally says, hey, have any of you guys seen that really old movie, Empire Strikes Back? That was like Christmas morning. Two of my favorite things of all time collided for a split second. Spider-Man made a Star Wars reference. I remember sitting there in the theater like, I can die now. I've seen everything that I need to see about this Spider-Man. Tom Holland, you the man. So Spider-Man is swinging around him. He's trying to sweep the legs. He's swinging in circles. And he says, you remember on the snow planet where there's those big walking things? Iron Man starts to say, I think the kid's onto something. So he's swinging around the legs, tying him up. And then Iron Man and War Machine go and give him this uppercut, and he falls over, and the Giant Man becomes regular-sized Paul Rudd. He asks for orange slices. I thought it was hilarious, but I have no idea what it means. If there's some kind of reference to that in the Ant-Man comics or in the first Ant-Man movie that I missed, let me know. So Peter Parker has another fight with Captain America, and they're talking back and forth. Steve Rogers is like, kid, you have no idea what you've gotten yourself into. Which is true. Spider-Man, he just wants to impress Tony Stark, and he's geeking out about all these superheroes that he's met. I gotta be honest, that's what I would be like if I was on set with all of these guys. I'd be like, you're Captain America. Big fan. You're Iron Man. That's exactly what I would be like, so that's why I loved it so much. But he's fighting with Steve Rogers, and they have a moment. He says, where are you from, kid? I'm from Queens. He says, Brooklyn. Towards the end of this fight, Spider-Man's laying on the ground, and Tony Stark runs up to him, and he's like, kid, oh, don't do this to me, and he finally says, what's going on, Mr. Stark? And he says, okay, kid, you're done, because he does not want another kid's death on his conscience. He can't handle that again. So he tells him, like, you're done, you're going home, or I'm telling Aunt May. And that was hilarious. And Spider-Man tries to get up, and he's like, okay, no, I'm not done. Okay, I'm done. So as the fight continues, Team Captain America decides to split up. So Hawkeye, Falcon, Scarlet Witch, and Ant-Man all stay behind to keep the rest of Team Iron Man distracted so that Bucky and Captain America can escape. Falcon is flying out next to the Quinjet. Iron Man tells Vision, shoot him. So he uses the Mind Stone and he shoots this big giant laser out at Falcon. But Falcon dodges at the last second and it hits Rhodey instead. And Rhodey falls to the ground. In the trailer, it made it look like that was his death scene. But no, he's paralyzed. He's very, very severely injured. And Falcon comes up to Iron Man. He's like, is he going to be all right? And Iron Man's like, shoots a repulsor at him. He's like, get out of here. don't want to deal with you right now. So what they do with all of these heroes that are left behind is they put them in the Raft. Guys, the Raft is in this movie. The supervillain prison, Marvel's answer to Arkham Asylum. Seeing that in this movie was awesome. It's an underwater prison. So Iron Man figures out that the guy that did the psych eval on Bucky might actually not be who he says he is, because they found the body of the guy that was supposed to do the psych eval. And a couple of other things they found were a mask and a wig to make this guy look more like Bucky. So he realizes, holy crap, Captain America was right the entire time. So that kind of changes his perspective on this whole situation yet again. So when he goes to the Raft, goes up to Falcon and he's like, listen, I need you to tell me where Steve is. And I'm not going there to fight him. I'm going there as a friend. I'm going there alone to help him, because he's going to need all the help he can get with this. Because he was right. So Falcon tells him where he is. He shows up. They're going to this place where the rest of the Winter Soldiers are. And I mentioned this in my spoiler-free review. I thought the villain was kind of weak. He just isn't given a lot to do. And I would even say that the fact that he's even in this movie is a little bit unnecessary. You have superheroes fighting against each other. You don't really need a villain. Make the conflict the main thing instead of having to deal with all of the rest of this stuff. Basically, what this guy's plan is he's trying to search out where Bucky put these extra Kool-Aid packets and what Hydra did with them, so that he can awake these sleeper cell Winter Soldiers. And, they spend a lot of time building up that these guys they're worse than the Winter Soldier. And I was thinking, this is how the movie's going to end, is instead of them fighting each other, they're going to come to realize, we need to put this aside for a little bit because we have to go to work. The Avengers have to take care of this. But actually what ends up happening is they get to this place and Zemo has already shot all of the Winter Soldiers in the head. And the reason that he's there is not for a fight. It's not for anything. His whole goal, he says to Captain America, is he wants to watch an empire fall. You're meant to think that it's America, but the empire he's talking about is the Avengers. He wants to tear them apart from the inside out. His plan is to get them all in one place and then push play on a video. What we see in the video is that mission that Bucky went on to get those Winter Soldier Kool-Aid packets. He stole those from Howard Stark. And in the process, he killed Tony Stark's mom and dad. We'll come back to the effect that it had on them in a second. But talking about the villain, come on, man. There's much easier ways for you to have done that. Send an email to these guys. That's all you had to do. I don't know, man. It was just overly complicated. They built up to the Winter Soldiers versus the Avengers fight, and then it amounted to absolutely nothing. Now let's go back to Tony Stark and Steve Rogers. So Tony sees this video play out, and I gotta be honest, it hits you right in the heart as he starts to piece this together, and you start to piece it together with it. He says, I know this road. What is this? And it's right there in that moment where you're like, oh no. And I remember both times that I've seen this movie, I was sitting in the theater just begging Bucky, like, stop. Don't do this. Please don't do this. But Bucky killed Tony Stark's parents, and as we know, Tony Stark leads by emotion, and this is a wound that he's never really healed from. He starts to go for Bucky, and Captain America stands in between them. He's like, listen, I know what you're seeing on camera, but that was Hydra. That was not Bucky. And then Iron Man says, did you know? And Steve Rogers has to tell him yes. So another bomb is dropped on him. Not only did Bucky murder his parents and he had to watch it on film, but somebody who's supposed to be his friend knew about it this whole time and didn't tell him. So Iron Man starts trying to take out both of them, and this fight, it's intense. Black Panther's there too. He realizes what Zemo's trying to do, and instead of joining the fight against Bucky, he goes after Zemo, who has now escaped. So Captain America and Iron Man are fighting, and Bucky's getting involved. Bucky tries to take the arc reactor out of Tony Stark's chest. Tony's suit has taken a lot of damage. It's not working properly. It just gets you right here in the heart. You're watching Steve Rogers just beat the crap out of Iron Man, and he takes the shield and he's hitting him in the face, but then that mask pops off and Iron Man does like this because he thinks that Steve Rogers is about to kill him, but instead he hits him right there in the arc reactor and totally immobilizes the suit. So he picks up Bucky, and they start to leave. And Tony Stark, that shield doesn't belong to you. My father made that. And Steve Rogers is like, you're right. So he drops the shield, and he leaves. You have a conversation with Black Panther and Zemo. Zemo's telling him his story, like, this is why I'm doing the things that I did. My entire family died in Sokovia. Everybody praised the Avengers for all the heroic deeds that they've done, but really, they're monsters. They're killers. They're murderers. I think it's another great moment for Black Panther. Zemo takes his gun, and he goes to point it at his chin like this, and Black Panther reaches over and puts his hand over the gun, and he says, "The living are not done with you yet." So they take Zemo and they put him in that same restraining car thing that they had Bucky in. Martin Freeman, I love you, man. He starts threatening him like, do anything, Zap. Please do something. Please give me an excuse to ruin your day. So the way that this movie ends, Tony Stark, and he's built something for Rhodey to help him be able to walk. Man shows up, and he says that he has a package for Tony Stank. It's Stan Lee. That's his cameo. He's the mailman that delivers this package to Tony Stank. And I love Rhodey's reaction. He's like, yes, this is Tony Stank. Thank you for that, by the way. That's not going away anytime soon. Could this be Stan Lee's best cameo? I don't know. It's a definite possibility. The package that Stan Lee is delivering is a letter from Steve Rogers and a phone. And it's basically him saying, look, I know we had our differences. I know that things kind of went to crap for a while. The Avengers are yours. You lead them. But if you need me, give me a call. I'll be there. And that's basically where the movie ends. There are two to the credit scenes. There's one that has to do with Spider-Man, where he shows the web cartridge. It shoots that Spider-Man light that you see in the comics and stuff. The other one, it shows Bucky and Captain America with Black Panther in Wakanda. Bucky decides that he's going to go back under the ice because he's too dangerous. You know, all the stuff that Hydra put in his mind, it's still there, and until they can figure out how to get it out, he's better off asleep. And Captain America says to Black Panther, like, they're going to come after us. And Black Panther just looks across the beautiful landscape in Wakanda, and he says, I'd like to see them try. So what were some of your favorite moments in Civil War? Obviously, I wasn't able to list all of them. What did I miss? What did I leave out? Leave me a message in the comments. Until next time, guys, I'm El Mattador. Peace out. Ole!